This time we'll have our third panel, which will be the Honorable Robert Garcia, Mr. Reich Rondeau, Honorable Terry Rambler, and the Honorable Robert Keller. Let me thank you all for coming. We appreciate very much you being here with us and look forward to your testimony. Chairman Ramler, I'll start with you, if you will. Start with your statement.
Can you hear me?
And now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the subcommittee. My name is Terry Rambler, Chairman of the San Carlos Apache Tribe. Thank you for this opportunity to testify on S339. Joining me today are Councilman Windsor Nosey Sr. and tribal members Alfred and Rose Balvado, Tanea White, Naylin Pike, and Vanessa Nosey. We oppose this bill for 3 reasons. 1, it will destroy our sacred areas. 2, it will deplete and contaminate the region's already overdrawn water supply. And 3, it is a bad deal for the American taxpayer. I also serve as president of the Intertribal Council of Arizona, which represents 21 tribes in Arizona, and submitted testimony strongly opposing this bill. I have here a list of tribes and tribal organizations that represent over 400 tribal governments united in opposition to this bill. This opposition keeps growing. The bill would transfer 2,422 acres of our sacred land, known as Oak Flat and Tonto National Forest, to Resolution Copper to develop a massive copper mine. Oak Flat is a place of worship where our spiritual deities reside. Just as Mount Sinai is a holy place to Christians, Oak Flat is the equivalent for us. The Apache way is to respect and care for our relatives, which includes the animals and plants and their habitats that thrive at Oak Flat. Our God provides these living things to sustain life and for use in our ceremonies and prayers. Our people have always gone to Oak Flat to gather ceremonial items and to conduct ceremonial dances, such as the sunrise ceremony that celebrates a young woman's coming of age. I'd like to ask Naylin Pike to stand. Naylin wrote about her sunrise ceremony, which took place last year. Her account and pictures are attached to my written testimony. Naylin's younger sister recently had a sunrise ceremony at Oak Flat. I'd like to ask Mr. and Mrs. Balvado to stand. Mr. and Mrs. Balvado are longtime members of the San Carlos Elders Advisory Council. Mrs. Balvado is a direct descendant of Apaches from the Oak Flat area who were forcibly removed to the San Carlos Reservation. Mr. and Mrs. Balvado are elders who are passing down our spiritual connections to young Apaches like Naylin. They demonstrate the tribe's long and continued connection to Oak Flat. I have a map here in green and orange that shows Oak Flat in relation to our reservation. As you can see, the Tonto National Forest borders our reservation, and Oak Flat is 15 miles away. Oak Flat and the forest are our Aboriginal homelands. This forest shares the same name as the Tonto Apache band that was removed to San Carlos. On the second map, I have a second map here that shows Oak Flat. The outline shows land withdrawn from mining by President Eisenhower. Federal laws and policies require meaningful consultation with tribes before taking federal action. However, once Oak Flat is held in private ownership, as this bill mandates, these federal laws will no longer apply, and our sacred area will be destroyed without our input. Resolution Copper plans to use the block cave method to extract the copper beneath Oak Flat because it is cheaper than other methods. However, it is also more destructive. This diagram here depicts the block cave mining process. The company would dig a tunnel 7,000 feet down to extract 1 cubic mile of ore. It would take 1,400 cowboy stadiums to hold 1 cubic mile of ore. At this depth, the temperature is 170 degrees Fahrenheit and not a place humans can go. The next diagram on block cave mining shows that the surface will eventually collapse once the cubic mile of ore is removed, causing an open pit 2 miles in diameter and visible from outer space. Here is a picture of subsidence that has occurred from block cave mining. As you can see, the surface is destroyed. Our second major concern is the loss of water in the region and our water rights. One of the purposes for establishing the Tonto National Forest in 1905 was to protect the watersheds and the quality of the water. This bill undermines that purpose. The mining project will require at least 20,000 acre-feet of water annually to keep the mine from flooding. This equates to the life water supply for 180,000 Arizona citizens each year. According to a recent study, this massive groundwater pumping would not be sustainable, and this will forever damage the region's water supply and threaten surface water resources. Here is a picture of a perennial spring at Oak Flat. Mining here will contaminate and dry up the spring and other water sources at Oak Flat. Here is a picture of the Oak Flat area and an ancient oak tree that has nourished the Apache people with centuries with its acorns. It takes 100 years to produce the first acorn from these trees. These trees will be destroyed when the land collapses. My final point is that at a time when all Americans are being asked to tighten our belts, this bill will result in the giveaway of American wealth to a foreign-owned mining company. The appraisal requirements included in S-339 do not ensure that the public will receive fair value. The American taxpayer stands to receive only a small fraction of the value of the federal minerals in the exchange. In closing, I urge you to oppose this bill. What I'm saying in Apache is, may God watch over you and give you guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Rambler. And Chairman Rambler, yours is a little bit more controversial. And if I may, first of all, how many tribes around the country or do you know of that oppose Senate Bill 339?
From our last count, it was over 400 tribes across the United States.
Come out openly against
Yes.
339. I know that you strongly oppose it, and I also understand that the bill has the support of the Arizona delegation. Hence, that creates a little bit of a controversy in the. We're used to controversy here, as you know. This makes it leave it a little more contentious. Is there any way that you can see that you all can come to an agreement or find some compromise? Has it been proposed to you? Any type of a compromise that you might be able to live with?
Well, two things. First one is what we see is this land that's sacred to us, that covers the whole 2,400 acres, is that once it gets desecrated, it really infringes on our Apache way of life, which is our freedom of religion that's afforded to all other Christians in the United States, people of faith, and we want that respected because it is who we are. It's our way of life, and that's the way that we believe. As far as what you're saying about is there anything compromised. The only thing that I will say is that if this bill goes through the normal administrative process of getting it reviewed and getting all the issues that are very harmful, and if that goes through, then not only us Apaches, but the other Indian tribes and other communities that live in the area, I believe they will come out and oppose this once they find out what this bill really means to the area.
Thank you. Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Rambler, I want to thank you for your testimony today, and I think as part of our trust responsibility to our nation's tribes, all of us on this committee, regardless of whether we have tribes or reservations in our home states, have a responsibility to understand these unique impacts on Native communities. I want to just thank you for sharing the role that these places play in your community's religious life. I've had to deal with a number of these thorny sacred site issues in my home state, and that's always a very, very difficult thing for communities to do. And I want to share my gratitude for your willingness to put some of that into the record. I don't have any further questions. If there's anything that you think you missed in your testimony, I'd like to hear it. Otherwise, I'll move on.
Okay, thank you, Senator Heinrich. First of all, thank you for being open-minded about this issue. Second is, as I was explaining the Apache way of life and how this area is going to affect that Apache way of life, and not just our tribe, but other tribes that have an interest in that area, that come from that area. We go there not only to pray, we go there to collect medicinal plants that still provide us the medicine that we need today. We go there to gather food, and there's places in the whole area that are very sacred to us. And right now, the Tonto National Forest is still working with us. It takes a long time, but they're still working with us on the ethnographic study to identify, those things, because nobody seems to believe us. And how this ties into what's going to happen is, here's the way we see it. Once this giant hole is created underneath the surface, eventually that land is going to collapse on top of it. And even Resolution Copper themselves have admitted that there will be some sort of subsidence in that area. A subsidence, a land collapse 2 miles in diameter, and these are mountains in that area. And those mountains are what we consider weather makers. These mountains gather snow, they attract snow, they gather water, they attract rainfall. And once it comes down, the rainfall, it's already been created by our Creator, that they have designated places to go to in all 4 directions. The same with the snow. Not only when they melt, they go to these 4 directions, but they go trickle down underneath to replenish our aquifers for our children. But when this giant hole is created, what's going to happen? Those waters that will naturally flow outwards to other areas, with that giant hole, it's going to reverse. It's now going to find its way to this big magnet in this giant hole that's going to attract this water. And the only way that it's going to stop the water from flowing back in there is if it reaches a certain level of the surface. And so once that happens, then yes, the water may stop flowing back into that giant hole. At the same time, the water that's going to be contaminated from there, from that area. I mean, once that happens, the surface is going to be affected. And that surface, those natural elements that are created by our Creator, that ties us to our Creator, they're going to be affected forever. And how can we as human beings undo or try to perfect something that has already been perfected by a higher power than us? Thank you.
Senator Flake. If there's no more questions, let me just thank all of our participants today and all the testimonies you gave us. It's very enlightening and it's very helpful for us. And we're going to have to take this up to the full committee, as you know, and we'll see where it goes from there. But we really appreciate you all making the effort to be here today, and your testimony is well received. With that, the Subcommittee on Public Lands, Forest, and Mining is adjourned.
Oh oh,